Today I'm cooking chicken and asparagus risotto. Risotto is an Italian rice dish using a short grain of rice called arborio rice. This rice is cooked during the absorption method over the stove with stock and flavouring, so our chicken and asparagus. So first up, I'll show the ingredients we've got for today. We've got 1 tablespoon of butter and 1 tablespoon of oil. That's for sauteing our ingredients. We've got 2 cups of arborio rice, half a cup of white wine, half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, 1 tablespoon of garlic and 1 onion. The onion will be brunoise. I have 2 bunches of asparagus which I will peel and chop. 1 litre of chicken stock, which is our liquid, and I have 1 chicken breast. The first part in our mise en place is going to be preparing our vegetables for our risotto. So that will be brunoising our onion and preparing, peeling and dicing our asparagus. So the first part with an asparagus is that we want to remove this green outer layer just by peeling it. So we start from just below the head of the asparagus and we peel down, turning it all the way around. The skin is very fibrous, so the idea is to remove that fibrous layer. Put that into our scrap bowl. The next part is establishing what part of the asparagus is edible. The lower part of the asparagus can be quite woody, and when eating it becomes quite firm. It's not very nice. So in order to do so, you just have to bend the asparagus at the base and it will snap naturally by itself. So this lower part is actually the hard fibrous woody part, which we do not want to cook with. So that becomes discarded or can be used in a stock later on. So I'll do that for all of my asparagus. Okay, so now that I've got all my asparagus prepared, what I'm going to do now is just dice it into small batons, ready for going into bite-sized pieces into our risotto. So I'm just going to line it all up very easily against the back of my knife and just slice it down into 1 centimetre batons. 1 centimetre batons is a nice bite-sized piece, not too small that will disappear into my sauce, into my risotto. And scrape that up. Right, our next step is going to be brunoiring the onion. So just peel off the outer layer of the onion. The next step in my dish is going to be just cutting up the chicken. So I want to have small bite-sized sliced pieces of chicken. So I've got my yellow chopping board ready to go. I take my chicken breast. I'm just going to make sure I trim off any excess pieces of fat. This is quite nice already. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to slice my chicken in half, straight across, so it's not too fat. And I'm going to slice it into nice long strips, about 1 centimetre thick. And then cut it into 1 centimetre cubes, ready for pan frying. Some of the chicken's slightly cooked just because I defrosted it early in the microwave. So now I'm going to start cooking my risotto. So in order to do so, I need to firstly take my 1 litre of chicken stock and pour it into a saucepan and bring that to a simmer. The chicken stock is going to be the liquid base of my rice dish. So the next part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in this large pot, I'm going to do all the cooking and assembly of my risotto. So first off, I'm going to take my butter and my olive oil and put it into my saucepan, where I am going to saute my onions and my garlic. Saute means to cook until the vegetable, in this case the onion, is soft and translucent. Now the reason I'm using a mixture of butter and olive oil is for flavour. The next step in my dish is I'm going to add my raw chicken to this and cook it through till it's nice and brown. It's nicely sauteed. Okay, so my chicken is now cooked through and I'm ready to start adding my rice to this dish. I'm just going to turn it down slightly. Okay, so we actually add the rice in at this stage and we need to cook the rice out for about 2 minutes. Add in all my rice, and what I'm going to do at this stage is just gently fold my rice, my arborio rice, through my cooked chicken, onion and garlic, which is the flavour of my sauce. And just gently fold it through. Now you have to cook out arborio rice for about 2 minutes. If you don't do this, the starch will release too quickly into the liquid and it will become a very, very gluggy risotto. So by cooking it out, by warming through the rice, before adding any further liquid to it, you stop that starch from coming out of the grain. Okay, very good. Alright, the next part in this dish is I'm actually going to add my white wine sauce. The white wine is going to, one, deglaze the pan from how I've been cooking the chicken and the garlic, and it's also going to add a great deal of flavour to the sauce. So I pour it all in, and I just shake my pan to loosen up that rice, because from this point onwards I'm going to try very much to avoid stirring the rice as much as possible. I want the liquid to be absorbed gently through the rice, so I'm just going to be giving it a shake and a very small figure of 8 stir every few minutes. The idea of this method now is that the rice is gradually going to absorb the moisture. So I've got my stock here, which is nice and hot. It has come to the boil and I've turned it down. The reason you want to have nice hot stock is that in this cooking process, we do not want to stop that cooking. If I was to add cold stock to this risotto right now, the process would stop, it would stop cooking, would have to heat it back up. So now I'm just going to gradually add the stock one level at a time to my risotto, let that rice absorb the stock and then add some more. So I'm just going to do a figure of an 8 stir. I can see that there is no liquid on the bottom of the pan. So that means we are ready to now add our first ladle of stock. Give it one figure of 8 stir. Gently shake it so all the rice sits evenly down and flat in the pan, and let that absorb through. One thing I will do is just push down the rice that's climbed up the edges of the pan so that all the rice is submerged in that liquid. Now we don't want to have this on a high heat, we just want to have it on a low simmer so it's gently absorbing that liquid. Once again, I'm just going to give it a figure of an 8 stir. Give it a shake, we're ready to add another ladle of chicken stock. Figure of eight stir. Shake it. Just push down the sides. Now once I've done this process, I'll keep repeating it over and over again until all the stock has been absorbed into the risotto. Then what I'll do is I'll fold through my asparagus. Asparagus only takes about 2 minutes to cook in this sort of temperature. So folding it through, that'll just cook the asparagus. And at the very end, I'll be adding my Parmesan cheese, which will give it a beautiful, creamy, salty texture. Figure of eight stir. very important when you stir this rice. You only stir it very, very lightly, too vigorously, and you will break those rice apart, releasing all the starch, and you won't be able to see all the individual rice grains, which is very important in this dish. See that almost all the liquid's absorbed. Just going to add the last amount of my stock. At this point, I'm also going to add the last of my asparagus. As you can see, almost all the liquid has now been absorbed into that risotto. Pull it aside and there's just a small amount left. I'll just leave that on for 2 more minutes. So at this point I'm going to just taste the rice to make sure it's not too crunchy, but there's enough moisture in it. There should be a very slight bite to the rice. Should be firm, but not crunchy, which this is just absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to give it a final stir before adding my risotto, making sure that all of that, the moisture, all of that stock has been absorbed. Okay, so at this point I'm just going to turn my heat right down. I'm going to add in one go all of my Parmesan cheese. Now I'm just going to fold that Parmesan gently through my risotto, and that's going to add a really beautiful, creamy, cheesy, salty flavour to that to that risotto. It's also going to really help it bind and hold together on the plate. So already you can see that the risotto has become very creamy just by adding that Parmesan. Now I'm just going to add a small amount of pepper and salt to that dish. Give it a small stir through again. And then the risotto is absolutely completed. So now we'll just plate that up. Okay, so I'm ready to present my risotto now. So what I do is I just get some nice large spoonfuls of my risotto. I've got a nice deep bowl here. Directly into the center, just going to spoon that risotto, making sure to get all nice pieces of chicken and asparagus in. I'm just going to pile that really gently, turning the plate as I go, into the center. It's very important I don't overfill this plate. Risotto is a very, very thick, heavy dish. It doesn't take much to fill a person. So I still want to see a really nice rim around the plate. I do not want it to become like a rice soup in there. So I've got nice height to my plate. Just wipe off any areas where a bit has spilt. Just going to push that risotto into the centre a bit further. Add a small amount of parsley just to the side of the top decoration. And then you can now see that I've got wonderful height to my risotto. It sits in the bowl just nice. Perfectly formed. All the moisture has evaporated nicely. All the stock has been absorbed into the risotto. So there's no liquid, there's no sauce. It's just a beautiful rice dish. Plenty of colour. Good sized piece of asparagus. Ready for serving.